Commander Thex stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Dominance, his 4 eyes widened in disbelief. The surveillance footage playing before him defied everything he knew about warfare and species superiority. The human diplomat, Sarah Mitchell, stood unharmed, brushing dust off her suit, while 3 of his most skilled assassins lay unconscious at her feet. Impossible, he chittered, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. Play it again. The holographic display rewound, showing the attempted assassination in pristine clarity. His operatives had used the most advanced Vax-Tie weaponry, plasma rifles capable of melting through battleship armor. Yet, when the energy beams struck the human, they simply dissipated. High Commander Raxel must see this, Thex muttered, his crystalline exoskeleton changing colors from confident blue to worried purple. The implications were staggering. For millennia, the Vax-Tie Empire had maintained its dominance through superior weapons technology. Every species they'd encountered had fallen before their might, until now. The human woman hadn't even flinched. She'd walked through the barrage of plasma fire as if taking a stroll through a light rain, then proceeded to physically subdue her would-be killers with nothing but her bare hands. Sir, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Vix, approached cautiously. The Council is demanding an explanation for the failed operation. They're concerned about the diplomatic implications. Vex's outer membrane rippled with dark amusement. Concerned? They should be terrified. We just violated 17 interstellar treaties attempting to assassinate an ambassador who turns out to be impervious to our most powerful weapons. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, monitoring the aftermath of the failed operation. Earth's military forces hadn't responded yet, another worrying sign. Either they were showing remarkable restraint, or worse, they didn't consider the attack a serious threat. There's more, sir, Vix continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. Initial scans suggest this. Immunity isn't unique to the ambassador. It appears to be a species-wide trait. Vex felt his primary heart stop momentarily. An entire species of energy weapon-resistant beings. How is this possible? Our archives contain nothing like this. The humans don't seem to realize how unique they are, Vix offered. Their own weapons are primarily kinetic-based. They never developed energy weapons because they had no effect on them during testing. Commander Thex walked to the viewport, gazing down at the blue-green planet below. What had seemed like an easy conquest now loomed as potentially the greatest threat the Empire had ever faced. A species that could ignore their primary means of warfare, that could walk through plasma fire unscathed. It was unprecedented. Send word to High Command, he ordered finally. Tell them we need to reassess everything we thought we knew about human beings. And Vix. Yes, Commander. Begin analyzing their historical records. I want to know everything about their wars, their conflicts. If our weapons don't work against them, we need to understand how they fight each other. As his crew scrambled to follow orders, Vex couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The Vax-Tie Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior firepower for 10,000 years. But now, facing a species that could shrug off their most powerful weapons, perhaps the time of their dominance was coming to an end. And somewhere in a diplomatic conference room on Earth, Sarah Mitchell was calmly explaining to her superiors why her suit needed replacing, completely unaware that she had just changed the course of galactic history. Deep within the Vax-Tie secret research facility on Europa, Major James Rodriguez stood calmly in the testing chamber, wearing nothing but standard military fatigues. Around him, an array of increasingly powerful weapons were mounted on robotic arms, all trained on his position. Test sequence 247 initiating, announced Dr. Corell, the Vax-Tie's leading weapons researcher. Her crystalline appendages danced across the control panel as she adjusted power levels far beyond their normal safety limits. Human subject appears, distressingly relaxed. Behind the reinforced observation window, Commander Thex watched intently. After the diplomatic incident, the Empire had negotiated a scientific exchange program, a thinly veiled excuse to study human resilience. To their surprise, the humans had agreed readily, even seeming eager to understand their own unique traits. "You may proceed when ready, Doctor," Rodriguez called out, rolling his shoulders. "Though I should warn you, the last 3 facilities couldn't even give me a sunburn." The first blast came from a standard infantry plasma rifle. The bright blue energy struck Rodriguez's chest and simply vanished. No deflection, no absorption effect, no visible reaction at all. The human didn't even blink. "Increasing to capital ship-grade weapons," Krell announced, her voice trembling slightly. The next blast would have carved through a battle cruiser's shields. It washed over Rodriguez like a warm breeze. "Fascinating," he mused, examining his unmarked skin. "You know, we always wondered why our early energy weapon prototypes failed. Turns out we weren't defective engineers, we just couldn't test them properly on ourselves." Commander Fex stepped forward to the observation window. "How is this possible? What defenses are you employing?" Rodriguez shrugged, a gesture that still unsettled the aliens with its casual dismissal of their most powerful weapons. "None. Best our scientists can figure, it's just how we're built. Something about our cellular structure and energy distribution. I don't understand the specifics, I just know it works." Krell's readings were going haywire. "Commander, I'm detecting no energy absorption, no deflection field, no technological interference. The energy simply ceases to exist when it contacts human tissue." "Hit me with everything," Rodriguez suggested. "Might as well be thorough." The chamber erupted with energy as every weapon fired simultaneously. The observation window's filters darkened automatically to protect the observers. When the barrage ended, Rodriguez stood in exactly the same position, not a hair out of place. "Well," he said cheerfully, "that was brisk. Anyone else feeling hungry?" Commander Fex felt his color shifting to a deep worried purple again. "Major Rodriguez, your species' capability is unprecedented. Surely you must see the military implications." "Oh, we do," Rodriguez replied, his casual demeanor shifting slightly. "That's exactly why we agreed to these tests. We wanted you to understand exactly what you're dealing with. Consider it a friendly warning." "A warning?" Krell asked. "Your assassination attempt on Ambassador Mitchell wasn't exactly subtle. We wanted to demonstrate that if you're planning any military action against Earth, your primary advantage is, well, useless." Fex's outer membrane rippled with concern. The Empire has ruled through superior firepower for millennia. "Then maybe it's time for a change," Rodriguez suggested, walking toward the chamber's exit. "By the way, your next-generation plasma cannon, the one you didn't tell us about? Nice kick, but still didn't feel a thing." As the human left the facility, Krell turned to Commander Fex. "Sir, I've analyzed all the data. We've thrown enough energy at him to power a small city. If we can't hurt them, then we need to find another way." Fex finished grimly. "Send word to High Command. The military option is no longer viable. We need alternatives." In the corridor, Rodriguez smiled to himself as he heard the aliens' worried chittering. Humanity had never wanted galactic war, but if it came, they were ready. The Vaxtei would learn that superior weapons didn't always guarantee victory, especially when those weapons couldn't harm your enemy. In the sterile confines of the Vaxtei's premier genetic research facility on Mars, Dr. Amora Patel sat calmly while alien scientists scurried around her, collecting tissue samples. She found their nervousness amusing. Here they were, the supposed masters of advanced technology, reduced to jumping at every movement she made. "Fascinating structure," muttered Chief Geneticist Dixner, her compound eyes fixed on a holographic display of human DNA. "The energy resistance isn't technological at all, it's fundamentally built into their genetic code." "We've been trying to tell you that," Dr. Patel said, rolling down her sleeve after the latest biopsy. "Though I must admit, Your imaging technology has helped us understand the mechanism better than ever before. Zixna's assistant, Urix, approached with another set of readings. Chief, the latest tests confirm it. Their cellular structure actually converts energy weapons into harmless biological electricity. It's like they're living Faraday cages. More than that, Dr. Patel corrected, standing up. Our bodies don't just disperse the energy, we utilize it. Every blast you've hit us with has been converted into useful cellular energy. Technically, you've been feeding us. The aliens froze, their crystalline exoskeletons shifting to pale yellow, their color of shock. Commander Thex, who had been observing from the doorway, stepped forward. "You mean to tell me," he said slowly, "that our weapons actually make humans stronger?" Dr. Patel nodded. "We suspected as much during the Europa tests. Major Rodriguez reported feeling unusually energetic after the weapons testing. Now we know why." Zixna's appendages flew over her console, bringing up new data. "Sir, this explains the anomalous readings we've been getting. Every subsequent weapons test has been slightly less effective, not because the humans were blocking the energy, but because they were becoming more efficient at absorbing it. In other words," Vex summarized grimly, "the more we shoot them, the stronger they become." "Precisely," Dr. Patel confirmed. "Though I should mention, this isn't classified information. We're letting you discover all this because we want you to understand the futility of military action against Earth." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Vaxtei Empire's entire military doctrine was based on energy weapons superiority. Against humans, that superiority wasn't just neutralized, it was counterproductive. "There's more," Urix added, his voice quavering. "The genetic markers for this ability, they're not random mutations. They appear to be deliberately engineered, but at a level far beyond our current understanding." Dr. Patel's expression remained neutral, but her eyes sparkled with interest. "Oh, do tell." "These genetic sequences," Zixna explained, bringing up more detailed scans. "They're too perfect, too efficient. No natural evolution could produce this. Someone, or something, designed humans to be energy weapon resistant." Commander Thex's color shifted rapidly through several shades. "Are you suggesting that humans might be the product of a civilization even more advanced than the Vaxtei?" "Yes," Dr. Patel finished. "Though who, when, or why remains a mystery, even to us." She stood up, gathering her things. "I believe we're done here. You have enough data to verify everything we've told you. I trust this will help the Empire make informed decisions about future relations with Earth." As she walked out, Commander Thex turned to his scientists. "Connect me to High Command immediately. They need to know the humans aren't just resistant to our weapons. There's something else entirely, something engineered to be superior." In the corridor, Dr. Patel allowed herself a small smile. The Vaxtei were finally beginning to understand. Humanity's apparent primitive status had been misleading. They weren't less advanced than the Empire. They were evidence of something far more advanced than either of them. And somewhere out in the galaxy, their creators might be watching, waiting to see how their creation would handle this test of civilization. In the shadowy depths of the Vaxtei High Command's central archive on their homeworld, Sub-Archivist Lexexi felt her crystalline form vibrate with anxiety as she transferred classified files to a secure data crystal. The information she discovered had to reach Commander Thex before it was too late. Meanwhile, on Earth, Marcus Kane stood before the United Earth Defense Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing Vaxtei fleet movements. "They're preparing something," Kane declared, pointing to suspicious patterns in their deployments. "Their energy weapons may be useless against us, but they're not giving up. They're adapting." Admiral Chen raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "Our intelligence suggests they're withdrawing their military assets." "That's what worries me," Kane responded. "The Vaxtei never withdraw. In 10,000 years of recorded history, they've never backed down from a conflict. They're planning something new." As if on cue, Dr. Patel burst into the council chamber, her usual composed demeanor shaken. "We have a problem. The genetic research facility on Mars just went dark. All our personnel are accounted for, but the Vaxtay, they took everything. All the research data, all the samples." Before anyone could respond, a priority communication cut through all channels. Commander Thex's familiar form appeared, but something was different. His usual confident bearing was replaced by obvious distress. "To all Earth authorities," he began, his translator struggling to convey the urgency in his voice. "What I'm about to reveal violates every protocol of the Empire, but you must be warned. The High Command, they discovered what made humans immune to our weapons, and they're trying to reverse it." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Kane stepped forward. "Reverse our immunity? Is that even possible?" "No," Dr. Patel interjected. "Our energy resistance is fundamentally encoded in our DNA. You can't just flip a switch and turn it off." "They know that," Thex continued. "They're trying something far worse. They're developing a weapon that doesn't target your bodies. It targets the energy your cells absorb and store. They're going to try to overload your natural defenses." Admiral Chen's face darkened. "How long do we have?" "Days, maybe hours. The weapon is already in production, but there's something else you need to know." Thex's form flickered as he glanced nervously over his shoulder. Sub-Archivist Lexixi discovered records, ancient records. "The Vaxtay have encountered beings like you before, over 50,000 years ago. We called them the predecessors. They too were immune to our weapons, and they too—" The transmission cut off abruptly. Kane turned to the council. "We need to mobilize. Now." "Mobilize what?" someone asked. "Our weapons were designed to fight enemies vulnerable to energy weapons. We're not equipped for this." "No," Kane smiled grimly. "But we're adapted for it. Dr. Petal, remember how you said our cells don't just disperse energy, they store it? How much energy have we absorbed from all their weapons testing?" Dr. Patel's eyes widened as she understood. "The average human test subject has absorbed enough energy to power a small city. If we could somehow channel that energy—" "Then we become the weapons," Kane finished. "They spent months shooting at us, thinking they were testing our defenses. Instead, they've been charging up their own defeat." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Vaxtay's desperate attempt to overcome human immunity had given humanity something unprecedented, an energy reserve that could be weaponized. "Contact Major Rodriguez," Kane ordered. "Tell him to gather all the test subjects. It's time to show the Vaxtay what humans can really do with all that energy they gave us." In orbit, the Vaxtay fleet began moving into position, unaware that their months of weapons testing had created something they never anticipated: an army of humans charged with their own weapon energy, ready to release it back at them. The real war was about to begin. The Vaxtay superweapon loomed in high Earth orbit, its crystalline structure refracting sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. On its command deck, High Commander Raxol watched with all four eyes as the final calibrations were made. The energy cascade would overload their cellular absorption capabilities. Chief Scientist Zixner explained, her appendages trembling slightly. Their own defense mechanism will become their undoing. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, Major Rodriguez stood in the middle of Death Valley, surrounded by 200 former test subjects. Each of them practically hummed with stored energy from months of weapons testing. "Remember," Dr. Patel's voice crackled through their earpieces, "your bodies have adapted to not just absorb energy, but to channel it. Focus on directing it outward, like flexing a muscle you never knew you had." Rodriguez closed his eyes, feeling the tremendous energy reserve within him. It was like having a sun trapped beneath his skin, burning to be released. Around him, other humans were beginning to glow with the faint blue light. In orbit, Raxol gave the order, "Initiate the cascade." The superweapon pulsed, sending a visible wave of energy toward Earth's atmosphere. But before it could reach its target, something unprecedented happened. The human test subjects released their stored energy in a synchronized burst. The result was spectacular. 200 pillars of pure energy shot skyward, meeting the cascade head-on. Where they collided, space itself seemed to ripple. Impossible. Zixna screeched, her crystalline form shifting to panic yellow. The energy readings are off the scale. Commander Thex, who had managed to reach Earth just in time, watched from the ground with Dr. Patel. They're not just resistant, he muttered in awe. They're conduits. Perfect energy conductors. The battle in the sky continued, human-channeled energy pushing back against the superweapon's cascade. Then something changed. The human's energy began to take on a different quality, shifting from blue to brilliant white. It's evolving, Dr. Patel whispered, checking her readings. The energy, it's becoming something else, something new. Rodriguez felt it first, a sudden understanding of what they were capable of. The stored energy wasn't just power. It was information, patterns, knowledge encoded in the very forces the Vaxtai had used against them. Everyone, he shouted, don't just push back, transform it, like they transformed us. The human energy beams shifted again, becoming intricate patterns of light that began to weave through the cascade, not fighting it but changing it, redirecting it, making it their own. On the superweapon, alarms blared as systems began to respond to commands they'd never received. The cascade was being reprogrammed at its source. Shut it down, Raxel ordered, but it was too late. The weapon's energy had become part of something larger, a network of power connecting the humans below to the very stars above. And in that moment, as the light show reached its peak, every human involved felt a presence, ancient, familiar, watching. The predecessors hadn't just made humans immune to energy weapons. They'd made them into something far more significant, inheritors of their legacy. The superweapon's cascade collapsed, transformed into a shimmering field of benign energy that encased the Earth like a second atmosphere. And in its light, symbols began to appear, messages left by those who had engineered humanity's unique abilities, waiting for the moment when their children would be ready to read them. The war wasn't ending. It was transforming into something else entirely, humanity's first step toward claiming their true heritage among the stars. The Great Hall of the Vaxtai High Council had never been so quiet. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, humans stood before the crystalline thrones of the Empire's leaders. Major Rodriguez, Dr. Potol, and Marcus Kane faced the assembled council, their bodies still faintly glowing with residual energy from the confrontation. High Commander Raxel, his exoskeleton now a humble shade of diplomatic blue, spoke first. We may have miscalculated. That's one way to put it, Kane responded, his voice firm but not unkind. You spent months trying to find our weakness, only to help us discover our true strength. The ancient messages decoded from the transformed energy field had revealed startling truths. The predecessors hadn't just been another species, they had been the guardians of the galaxy, who saw war coming before they vanished. They had seeded various worlds with specially engineered species, each designed to unlock different aspects of universal knowledge when ready. Humanity, Dr. Patel explained to the Council, was designed to understand energy, not just to resist it, but to transform it, to take destructive force and reshape it into something beneficial. That's why we survived your weapons, and that's why we could change your superweapon's purpose. Rodriguez stepped forward, extending his hand. A small sphere of pure energy materialized above his palm, shifting through complex patterns. We're not just immune to energy weapons anymore. We understand energy at a fundamental level the predecessors once mastered, and we're willing to share this knowledge. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Sharing technology? The very concept was alien to the Vaxtai Empire's philosophy of dominance through superior firepower. Commander Thex, now standing with the humans, addressed his leaders. The predecessors didn't choose humans because they were the strongest or the most advanced. They chose them because of their capacity to adapt, to transform, to share. everything we've seen them do with energy. It's not about power, it's about potential. What are you proposing? Raxel asked, his color shifting to curious green. A partnership, Cain answered. Your empire has maintained order through force for millennia. But imagine maintaining it through understanding instead. The predecessors left more than just messages. They left a roadmap to technologies we can only dream of. Technologies that require both your crystalline precision and our adaptive nature to unlock. Dr. Patel activated a holographic display showing the intricate patterns they discovered in the transformed energy field. This is just the beginning. The predecessors designed humans to be catalysts for change, but we need the stability and experience of species like the Vaxtae to help guide that change. And if we refuse? One council member challenged. Rodriguez smiled, the energy sphere above his hand transforming into a miniature galaxy. Then you'll miss out on the greatest adventure in galactic history. The predecessors didn't disappear, they evolved beyond our understanding. They left us breadcrumbs to follow, but only if we work together. The council chamber fell silent again, but this time with contemplation rather than fear. The Vaxtae had built that empire on the principle that advanced weapons guaranteed survival. Now they faced a species that proved there were other paths to advancement. Besides, Cain added with a grin, shooting at us clearly doesn't work. So why not try something new? Laughter, a sound rarely heard in the High Council chamber, rippled through the assembly. Even Raxel's crystalline form shimmered with amusement. Very well, the High Commander declared. Let us begin this partnership. Perhaps it's time the Empire learned a new way to maintain peace. As the formal agreements were drawn up, Dr. Patel studied the energy patterns still swirling around them. Somewhere out there, the predecessors were watching their plan unfold. Humanity's immunity to energy weapons hadn't been a defensive measure. It had been the first step in teaching them, and through them the galaxy, a fundamental truth. True power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to transform. The age of weapon superiority was over. The age of understanding had begun.